August 13, 1943. Over Austria, 8 German fighters falling from the sky in flames, 90 seconds of fire. One B-17 bomber, the highest single mission kill count in the history of American heavy bombers. Not 5, not 6. 8 confirmed kills before the clock hit 2 minutes. This isn't Hollywood. This is the all-American. And what happened that day rewrote the doctrine for every bomber that flew into Nazi airspace for the rest of the war. Let me show you how impossible this actually was. In August 1943, flying a B-17 over Europe was a death sentence with paperwork. No fighter escorts, no margin for error. Just formations of slow, heavy bombers pushing deep into Reich airspace while swarms of Bf-109s and Fw-190s ripped them apart. The numbers were horrific. 2 weeks before the All-Americans mission, the 8th Air Force hit Schweinfurt's ball-bearing factories. They lost 60 bombers in a single afternoon, 600 men, one day. The life expectancy of a B-17 crew was measured in missions, not months. Most never made it to 10. The odds were simple mathematics. Fly enough missions, and eventually the numbers caught up with you. A flak burst in the right place, an engine fire at the wrong altitude, a fighter attack when your gun's jammed. The crews knew it. They could see it in the empty bunks, hear it in the silence at morning briefings when another plane failed to return. They watched replacement crews arrive wide-eyed and green, and they knew most of those kids wouldn't make it through their first month. So when 61 B-17Fs from the 303rd Bomb Group climbed into the morning sky on August 13th, heading for the aircraft factories at Wiener Neustadt, Austria, every man aboard knew the odds. And the All-American, piloted by Lieutenant Ken Bragg, was flying in the worst possible position, tail end Charlie. Last plane in the formation, the straggler. The target every German pilot aims for first. The hunters were waiting. 20-plus German fighters, maybe more. The combat reports say over 20, but some crew members swore it was closer to 30. Bf-10-9s mostly, sleek and vicious, diving out of the sun in waves. Standard Luftwaffe doctrine: isolate the straggler, hit it from multiple angles, overwhelm the gunners, and watch it fall. It should have worked. The German pilots were veterans, many with dozens of kills. They knew how to work together, how to coordinate their attacks, how to exploit the blind spots in a B-17's defensive fire. They'd done this 100 times before. But the 303rd Bomb Group had a secret: the combat box. They called it the combat box. Picture this: B-17s stacked in a tight, three-dimensional formation. Not just flying in a line, but layered vertically and horizontally so that every bomber's guns overlapped with the next. High squadron, low squadron, lead squadron, all positioned so their fields of fire created a sphere of interlocking .50 caliber machine gun coverage. The 303rd pioneered this formation, and the All-American was about to prove why. When the German fighters came screaming in, they weren't attacking one bomber. They were flying into a crossfire from 13.50 caliber machine guns, all firing at once. A wall of lead moving at 2,900 feet per second. The nose gunner and bombardier, the top turret, the ball turret hanging underneath, the waist gunners on both sides, the tail gunner watching the six. Every position firing, coordinating, tracking targets through a storm of tracer rounds and exploding fighters. The coordination was everything. A B-17 carried 7,800 rounds of .50 caliber ammunition. Sounds like a lot until you realize each gun fired 800 rounds per minute. Run your guns continuously and you'd be empty in less than 2 minutes. So the gunners learned to fire in controlled bursts, to pick their moments, to make every shot count while maintaining constant pressure on the attacking fighters. The loneliest position, but there was one man who turned that day from defensive survival into outright slaughter. Staff Sergeant Michael Zook, tail gunner. The loneliest position on a B-17, stuck in a tiny plexiglass bubble at the back of the plane, staring at an empty sky that could fill with enemy fighters in seconds. No room to move, barely space to crouch. Just you, your guns, and the certainty that every fighter attacking from behind would see you first. The temperature at 25,000 feet hovered around -40 degrees. The oxygen was thin enough to kill you in minutes without a mask. The noise was deafening, even through leather helmets, and the isolation was absolute, cut off from the rest of the crew. Watching the battle unfold through a bubble of plexiglass and gun smoke. Zuck was 23 years old, from Pennsylvania. Quiet kid, the kind who didn't talk much on the ground but became someone else entirely at 25,000 feet with his hands on the triggers. And that day, he was locked in. 90 seconds of hell. The official after-action report, MACR 294 credits Zook with 3 kills in 40 seconds. 3 BF-10 9S, diving from above and behind, standard German tactics. They came fast, firing cannon rounds, trying to cripple the tail section and knock out the gunner. Zook didn't flinch. First 109, a long burst, maybe 2 seconds, aiming ahead of the dive to lead the target. The fighter's left wing sheared off, tumbling spin, gone. Second 109, closing from 4 o'clock high, trying to attack from the side where the tail gun's traverse was weakest. Zuck swung the turret hard, caught him mid-turn. Engine fire, smoke trail, down. Third 109, head-on from behind, the most aggressive attack profile. Closing speed over 500 miles per hour combined. Either Zuck hits him or the fighter's cannon rounds hit Zuck. Zuck fired first. Short controlled burst. The 109's canopy shattered. The plane nosed over and dove away, trailing fire. 40 seconds, 3 kills, and he wasn't done. The All-American's other gunners were pouring fire into every angle. The top turret gunner caught a fighter trying to dive through the formation. The ball turret, rotating underneath the belly, tracked a 109 trying to attack from below and sent him spinning into the clouds. The waist gunners, firing out the side windows, hit 2 more at close range. One fighter came so close they could see the pilot's face before their rounds tore through his cockpit. Nose gunner got another trying a head-on pass. A desperate move that put the fighter directly in the path of converging fire from 3 gun positions. 90 seconds, 8 confirmed kills. The official USOAF report documents everyone, the evidence. And here's the thing that makes this even more insane. Gun camera footage exists. Most bomber gun camera film from 1943 is long gone, lost to time, or classified and destroyed. But fragments of the All-Americans footage survived. You can see it in the archives. Grainy black and white frames of enemy fighters disintegrating under sustained .50 caliber fire. Wings folding, engines exploding. Pilots ejecting into empty sky. The 303rd Bomb Group War Diary calls it the most aggressive and effective defensive action of any B-17 in the 8th Air Force to date. The blueprint. But it wasn't luck. It wasn't just good gunners. It was doctrine. The combat box formation the 303rd developed became the blueprint for every heavy bomber group that followed. The interlocking fields of fire, the tight formations, the coordinated defense. It worked because it turned every bomber into a fortress that protected its neighbors. The numbers prove it. In 1943, before the combat box became standard, bomber loss rates over Germany averaged 5 to 7% per mission. Unsustainable. At that rate, most crews died before finishing their 25 mission tour. The 8th Air Force was bleeding experienced airmen faster than they could train replacements. By mid-1944, after the combat box formation spread across the 8th Air Force, loss rates dropped to under 2%, a 60% reduction. Thousands of airmen came home because of what the 303rd figured out over Austria that day, the quiet hero. And Michael Zook, the quiet kid from Pennsylvania who shot down 3 German fighters in 40 seconds, he was awarded the Silver Star for gallantry in action. The citation reads, for extraordinary heroism while serving as tail gunner during a bombing mission over heavily defended enemy territory. Despite repeated attacks by superior enemy forces, Sergeant Zuck maintained continuous and accurate fire, destroying 3 enemy aircraft and contributing directly to the survival of his crew. The All-American made it home. Every man aboard survived the mission. 8 German pilots didn't. Legacy. 90 seconds changed aerial warfare doctrine. 1 bomber crew proved that defense could be offense if you engineered it right, and the combat box formation they perfected became the standard that carried American bombers through the bloodiest air war in history. The lessons learned over Austria that August morning echoed through every bombing raid that followed. Tight formations, mutual support, coordinated fire, simple principles that saved thousands of lives and helped win the air war over Europe. And somewhere in those 90 seconds of fury and fire, a 23-year-old tail gunner from Pennsylvania wrote his name into history. The next time someone tells you one person can't make a difference in war, remember Michael Zook in a tail turret over Austria. 40 seconds, 3 kills, and the formation doctrine that saved thousands of lives. If you want more forgotten stories of World War II engineering and the people who made the impossible happen, hit that like and subscribe button. Drop a comment. What's the most underrated piece of World War II tech you think deserves a deep dive? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.